hero? Who is your favorite fearless hero? Okay, I want to see if she's gonna stay. Otherwise, welcome,
No, she's
folks.
gone. I swear she's gonna see me tomorrow and she's gonna be like, "This is the man that colluded with my friend to like
Yeah, no, she's
wake me up."
I mean, she's still chilling around here, so she might jump up again. But I mean,
We might get like a cameo every now and again.
yeah, we might get cameo from Mischief the cat. Definitely not Kitty Softpaws, but you
Yeah,
know
no.
that
Similar vibes.
curiosity killed the cat, and that cat definitely has 9 fucking lives. But anyway, should we, start our actual podcast now?
Yes.
Because hello, people.
Hello.
we
Episode
are.
2.
I was gonna say we are now back for another episode of Men or Books. Hell yeah! Except today it's more gonna be men or movies, I guess,
Yeah,
because
men or movies.
no books. And if y'all have not obviously looked at the title or the fact that a cat was on here, you probably don't know what the fuck we're doing. But yeah, otherwise you know what we're gonna be reviewing here today. And obviously I think we want to once again start off the episode with our man of the week.
Oh yes, man of the week, the sexy man, the awesome man.
Editing
the
skills
man,
gonna come in here.
Yeah, editing skills gonna come in here. The sexy picture's gonna blast on screen right now. So unlike last week when we chose a man that was a little confusing to look at times, a very very Ice Age baby-esque type of man.
Yeah, with a million different portraits, but
Yeah, this man.
this man has got tough competition this week. Okay.
Yeah, this man has tough competition. So we wanted to put him, like, we wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt and like put him up, like, fuck, I can't speak English today. We want to put him up. We wanted to put him up against someone who could handle his sexiness. So
Yeah.
today we are doing Will Sharpe. Well, we're not doing him. But he is.
We're not doing. We wish we were doing it, but it's fine.
We wish we were doing it, but
I don't think he wishes that. But it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, no, I don't think he does. But Will Sharpe, if you're watching this,
you're hot, basically.
You're hot
the
as
fact
shit.
that you've made it onto this podcast is
you're hot as shit.
quite
This-
a lot.
this-
And the
this
fact
is
that we're putting you up against this week's movie, which just so happens to be Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
Woo!
Because we should probably also get into the background of how the fuck we came across this, because
Oh.
this was not we weren't ever supposed to do a review on this, let alone ever watch this film, but here we are, because at some point Keaton and I went out with a friend, since he decided to go off to animation school, and now we haven't heard from him ever since.
Oh yeah.
So we decided on our last time together we were going to just go around Bedford, and in the end we decided, hey, well, let's watch a movie, right? And there wasn't really much else on, because at the time we had all watched Avatar 2 already, and that was kind of the only other better option that was on in cinemas.
Yeah.
And so
For Avatar episode.
but anyway, so we decided, fuck it, let's watch this Puss in Boots movie.
Yeah,
and we thought this was really amusing, because it was like, it's a kids movie, y'all. We're gonna watch a kids movie. And I vaguely remember the first film, because it's been a while since I watched
it was
the first film.
it was around, I think it was around the same time Avatar came out in 2009.
I actually think it could have been like 2000, because I think this sequel was supposed to come out in 2012. So I'm pretty sure, it must have been maybe like 2010 or something like that.
Yeah, around there.
But obviously the sequel got delayed by like a whole decade.
A couple of things. But we're appreciative of that.
No, we're appreciative of that, because to say that we were surprised by this film is an understatement. It's the understatement of the century.
Yeah,
okay?
no. Half of the movie was just Calvin and I turning to each other with like the most awestruck faces, being like,
very, very much so, because for those of you who haven't watched this film,
it's
for a kids film, this hits way too hard for a kids film.
It is 100 minutes of pure, unadulterated like symbolism and like metaphors that are gonna make your mind, like blow your mind, and it is insane.
and we're gonna go over all of this, I guess. I don't think we necessarily need to do a chronological order for this one because we
Yeah, I
just gotta.
think
Because I mean, the plot is pretty goddamn simple because it's a kids' film, right? The plot is made to be simple, right? So basically, just a rundown of the plot, right? So they've done a spin-off where obviously Puss in Boots has 9 lives, like the saying for a cat does, and well, he's now down to his last life at the beginning of this film because he stupidly wasted all of his other lives by getting killed in really stupid ways. But then just so happens that there's this wishing star which fell at the beginning of the film, and it is able to grant people a magical wish.
yeah, the wishing star can give you wishes.
And yeah, and so to say they have there's a map which lands up in the hands of Jack Horner, who's kind of the guy, the guy who stuck his the thumb in a plum. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
from that song. Anyway, and so Puss in Boots steals the map. There's a couple of other characters that get introduced. Kitty Softpaws is back in this film as well. And then there's other characters like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. There's a little dog called Perito, and they essentially all go to hunt down this last wish, and they all have it for different reasons. They all want the wish for different reasons, and Puss in Boots obviously wants it to get his 9 lives back because he is very obsessed with the fact that he is a legend, and he believes that without his 9 lives he is kind of nothing.
and the reason that Puss in Boots is also quite scared of death because he hasn't been scared of death before, and I don't think if this character wasn't introduced to Puss in Boots when he was, I don't think Puss would have really cared about the fact that he only had one life left. The reason that this man was so terrified of death was because, well, he met death. He met death in a bar. And y'all, let me tell you, this man is one of the scariest DreamWorks antagonists I have ever seen. He is incredibly menacing and like it's just amazing.
Yeah, so essentially the film we get introduced to who at the beginning of the film we kind of think so he's the big bad wolf, right? And at the beginning of the film it's like Puss in Boots assumes he's just a regular bounty hunter who's looking for him because he has his wanted face on a photo on the all the plaques around the city. And so we just think it's a regular bounty hunter. Later on, there in the film, it's actually revealed that he is not in fact a bounty hunter, but he is Death himself. And as he says, literally, not metaphorically, rhetorically, or
No,
theoretically, the literal, straight up reincarnation of
as
Death
is
in the
death.
flesh.
And he meets Puss in Boots in a bar, and Puss is like, "Yeah, no, fuck you. I'm not gonna do that." So then he tries to fight Death, and obviously he gets his ass handed to him. So Puss in Boots is like, "Cool. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go retire and live with the cat lady." So then he goes and retires and lives with the cat lady. He has this whole very sweet funeral for his clothes where he like says goodbye to his old life, and then he goes and lives with this cat lady, and he meets this dog named Perdito. And Perdito is a very, very traumatized dog that is pretending to be a cat because he is traumatized.
Yeah, and he wants to be a therapy dog. So we're going to get into like some of the because I think obviously the best. So we should probably go over what's so great about this film. And the best part probably is the characterization of all the characters.
Yeah.
But another one is obviously the animation because y'all, this is
Oh,
this is next level the Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse stuff because the fight scenes in this film are absolutely
yeah. I
mind
mean,
blowing.
so I mean, obviously the film does take heavily from Spider Verse, with the split framing and like a whole bunch, and the way that like character and
Yeah, and it
characters work
mixes
and
in
stuff
the
like
2D
that.
animation with the 3D
The 3D
animation, and
animation.
the cameras are having a
They're
great
having the
time.
best time. But I think what this film does a lot better than Spider Verse, which I mean, Spider Verse, yo, let's just say that Spider Verse is like one of the best animated films of
Yeah,
the last 10 years. It's incredible.
definitely.
But what Puss in Boots does is it takes Spider Verse's like auteur and motif, and rearranges it into a lens that's still viewable for kids. So kids can enjoy it because flashy lights and colors and things like that. But adults can enjoy it because, well, I mean, the choreography is insane. the choreography in the fight scenes and the way that fight scenes are laid out in this movie and the way that fight scenes are shot in this movie are absolutely incredible.
Yeah, no.
Like,
Like at yeah, because like at the beginning of the film, there's this giant monster which a lot of people see in the trailer, and what kind of got everyone hyped for the animation. There's this like giant forest monster which comes up, and the whole fight sequence with that monster. A lot of people say it reminds everyone of Attack on Titan because the camera angles are very much like that used in
yeah,
Attack on Titan, but they're so well executed. And it's also just like at one point he's spinning on top of, and the camera spins along
friends
with
with
him.
him.
It is so
Really good.
goddamn awesome, and it is so clean. But what's also nice with this is like it doesn't it doesn't like take the entirety of the style from Spider-Man into the
Yeah,
Spider-Verse and like pitch on this film. What it does is it kind of blends it with the old original, like the old DreamWorks style as well, which works really well because like every time there's an intense moment, like an intense fight scene is about to break, it jumps into the style and it just works so fresh because the transitions
so good.
are great in this
Yeah,
film. So animation, top
animation
tier
10
stuff.
out of 10. Now, set and character design. Y'all, the Dark Forest in this movie is incredible. Obviously, we can talk about the premise of the Dark Forest, which I think we're gonna get. Let's just get
Yeah,
to it now.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Because let's say once again in the lovely world of Shrek, as this is, like I still can't believe all these films are like related to
yeah,
Shrek, but in the lovely world they like to take fairy tales and like put a spin on them, and they really do it really well and in such a cool way because these fairy tales, as we say, there's always a dark forest, and this
yeah.
dark forest gets a great spin. We have the spin on Goldilocks and the Three Bears. We have the spin on Jack Horner and all that, but we'll get to the characters in a moment. But for
Yeah.
now, Keaton, you can continue with
So,
your dark
the Dark
forest.
Forest. So, basically, the Dark Forest is where most of the conflicts take place in the movie. Most of the fights and most of the character growth in this movie takes place in this Dark Forest. And the reason that everybody is in this Dark Forest is because that's where the Last Wish landed. The Last Wish
Yeah,
was a meteor, fell from space because everything interesting falls from space, and then it came and it landed in the Dark Forest, and now everybody wants it for their own maniacal reasons, right? And this Dark Forest uh, is like guided through with a map, but the map is magic, right?
yeah,
Magic. And the way that it works is it whoever's holding the map and is whoever's walking through the forest changes its landscape and changes its like I guess you could call them like key plot points, kind of like where like if this was like a classical if this was like a classic hero's journey, these would be like the spots where like a hero would like go on like meet have
yeah. It's like
certain
the
key like aspects of
yeah,
their
it's
like
like the
journey
trials and
happen.
tribulations, etc., and all of
Yeah.
that.
So it kind of molds itself to that, but it molds itself to that based on the character's
Yeah,
personality.
because essentially the Last Wish doesn't want anyone to get this wish, and so the idea, like, if you had a set route, then there are some people who are going to be able to easily get through this route because they have specific talents and whatnot. What the map does is it like reorders the world to make it impossible for whoever wants the wish. It basically takes down like their deepest fears and like their deepest challenges and puts that down. So it's like, yeah, you're not getting this wish, buddy. Good luck.
Yeah,
If you want this wish, you have to go through all of this shit.
and it's actually a really cool way to like fully visualize the issues that are plaguing these characters because
Yeah, it speaks about the inner monologue, and it's so cool because every time the map switches hands from different characters, the whole world changes, and it really just throws everything, and that it allows the
it's
animation to kind of like because the world's just
yeah
jumping around from different
it's
things.
incredible the animation to design and I actually like did some like background research into how the animation was created for all this stuff. It is insane. It is
Yeah,
wild.
so
um
basically, the transitions every time a new person gets a map, it transitions to their worst fears and hardest challenges, and so it just like the world goes to chaos because it like splits and everything. It's so cool.
it's so cool. But then there's like obviously there's three main characters that we look at when we're talking about like the three main like squad of
We have three groups essentially because they kind of obviously find a loophole in that if you kind of go in a group and you give the map to like
to
the
like
least hardest of the group because
yeah.
so Puss and Kitty Softpaws are stuck with Perito the dog, right? And Perito,
Uh,
he's the only character in this film who starts from the get go. He doesn't want a wish because he believes that his life is fulfilled. He's got everything he wants in his life, and that is the kind of the end of the message of the
yeah.
film is that when looking for a wish, you should always make sure that what you have is already in front of you. So he doesn't want anything, and so when he gets hold of the map, it's like all roses and
Yeah.
daisies because he doesn't because when he's going to get to the wish, he's not really going to want it, and so the map doesn't mind him just going straight towards there.
So that's that. Yeah, that's Perdito. But when Puss and Kitty get the map, it's awful. It's like like as close to like nightmare forest as you could get, with like swamps and bogs and
Yeah, no, like I think
unthinkable
Kitty,
dangers and
like
stuff.
Puss in Boots has like the cave of lost souls. Kitty has like
Yeah,
the mountains of eternal
you know,
loneliness or
yeah,
something like that. It's so bad.
it's so bad, and it is like when as soon as they hand the thing off to Peretito, and the thing changes to like this freaking like candy land. You're just like, wow, these people are really, really messed up.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so
the three main squads, right?
yeah, the three main squads.
So
So
these are where all the characters get grouped together. So we have Puss, Kitty, and then Perito in the first group. Then we have Goldilocks and the three bears in the other group, and then we have Jack Horner and his baker's dozen in the other group.
yeah,
And we'll probably
I
get
mean,
to, and I mean technically then there's Death on his own, but Death isn't. Death
they're
is
for
like
the
out.
weird.
He doesn't want anything to do with it. He doesn't care. He's Death. He's just there
Yeah,
to hunt Puss in Boots. So
yeah. Death is as like death is personified as kind of like stalking people, waiting for them to die. It's kind of the same thing. He's
yeah.
not there for any other reason except killing Puss in Boots.
And I mean,
So
getting into the characters, should we just start with Death? Because I mean, like,
yeah, well, um, Death is incredible. He
Death,
is
it's it's really great because if for a kids film, he's one of the few villains I've ever watched that literally gives me goddamn goosebumps every
yeah,
time he's on screen. Every time he appears, it is so utterly terrifying.
so the thing is, so the way that Death is kind of hinted at and like introduced a lot is his whistle. He has this like really menacing like
it's like his
sinister
musical
whistle.
note. It's like his musical motif in a way.
Or something
I
like
know
that.
we do a shit version of it, but
Yeah,
anyway,
no shit.
just imagine it really creepy. Okay, look it up. Go on YouTube. You can probably
I
find
think
it.
that was the thing from the Hunger Games.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so Hunger Games it
Okay,
is
so he
then.
has a whistle. It'll be it'll be around now.
I mean, would we even be allowed to use that
I mean,
noise? It probably gets.
maybe
Would we get copyright? I mean,
it's a whistle.
yeah, I don't think we should be fine. It's
Yeah,
fine.
no.
We'll try to put
Okay,
it in.
if
If this video gets banned, then you know why.
yeah, I mean, it's not like we're making. It's not like we care if it gets demonetized or anything.
No, we don't care about that.
So, but yeah, so Death gets introduced with this whistle, and each time Puss hears this whistle after their original fight, his fur stands on it, right? Obviously, because he's
Yeah,
scared.
because we should also like say like one of the big things was that supposedly the film is set up so that Puss in Boots is this legend, and he's never been touched by a blade before.
Yeah.
Now in the bar scene when he gets confronted by Death, this is also what was surprising for me for being in a kids film is the fact that Death actually strikes him with his sickles. And
Yeah.
blood actually runs down his face, and I was just like, "God, they're having blood in a
They
kids'
have
film. God
blood in
damn!"
kids movies now. What's going on?
But basically, that was the first time that Puss has ever been touched by a blade, and so his fur then suddenly automatically stands on end. And every time he now hears this whistle, it
Like,
just it makes him like freeze up.
and I'm going to be completely honest. Each time I heard that whistle, my fur also.
Oh
stood.
yeah, no, it
Like-
is dreadfully terrifying. Like,
Like,
just,
it is like one of the most sinister, like scary whistles, and like calling cards for any sort of kids villain that I've seen in a while.
no, and it's
Um,
also because like the way it's also set, like the way it's set up and the way Death, because like Death only ever appears for so many minutes in this film.
Yeah.
He doesn't appear for much, but he reminds me a lot of like the Darth Vader type of character in that they don't show up a lot in the film. They only have like 15 or 10 minutes of screen time,
Yeah.
but every time he is on screen, he basically commands your attention and commands the respect of the audiences. And
Yeah.
basically, he just like dominates the entire scene because your entire focus and attention is suddenly on this character. Because at the beginning, it's once again set up that Puss in Boots is this unstoppable legend. He beats like giant literal monsters and all of that stuff. And so it's built up that he is like basically unstoppable. And so the fact that we get introduced to this character who's supposed to be a bounty hunter at the beginning, and he just comes and wipes the floor with him,
yeah.
makes you actually feel really scared for Puss every time another confrontation occurs, because you realize, who the hell is this guy? Like, you don't know that this guy, that's the thing, he has a mystery to him. You don't know about him until later it's revealed that he's Death, and so you're rather terrified because you're like, oh god, is he actually going to be able to kill Puss in Boots?
Yeah, It's wild. And so yeah, Death. Again, we should. I don't think we mentioned this. Death is a wolf in this situation.
Now we did man the big
It,
bad wolf, but also yeah, his character design is
is
fantastic.
fantastic.
He's like a
But
wolf with a little cloak, and he's got two sickles instead of the Reaper's like what
scythe.
scythe? Yeah, so it's quite an interesting spin on it, but
Yeah.
it's
So
still got the same.
again, again, most of so something very interesting as well. Like he is obviously the primary antagonist in this movie, and then there's the secondary protagonist that
Yeah,
are
we'll get into like the
but
culmination of the antagonists,
yeah, the protagonist.
protagonists, antagonists,
I
all that.
think again with character design and especially like silhouette design, which is like really cool with Death. He is like there's that whole like the whole villains are like very sharp angles, right?
Yeah,
They're very abrasive, like they're very abrasive to look at, right? Death is very abrasive to look at. Like he is
yeah.
all sharp angles. Everything's like when he's in his cloak, it's like a V. It's like everything is there.
Yeah, it's very contrast to Puss's like little
Like
fluffy little
like
frame. I know
yeah.
it's
And also in contrast to even the other antagonists in the film, like Big Jack Horner and the Bears, they're all still like round, soft. Like they
yeah,
still have that kind of thing. They obviously they have bad intentions, but they still kind of hold on to that like kind of childlike, like wonder, like childlike fairy tale ish
yeah,
like design that they have, and that also kind of solidifies that Death is the main antagonist in this movie. He's
yeah.
always like at the back of your mind, like thinking like, what is gonna happen when this guy shows up? Because he does eventually just kind of like if you watch the movie, there's like little bits and pieces where he's just like in the background stalking Puss in Boots. It's
Yeah, it's
yeah,
because it's like the way every time he enters a scene that's really freaky. Because first the whistle starts, and that's when you get like the goosebumps, and then it's like the same thing. Like, at the one point when Big Jack Horner is like blowing up everyone hit with unicorn corns, and then suddenly in the middle of that fight, Puss hears the whistle. Like the camera just stops for a moment, and everything goes in slow mo, and then it slowly pans over to Death, and he's just standing there in the background with these red eyes and cloak, and it is
yeah,
absolutely
it
terrifying.
is terrifying.
It's just
I
because
don't
also
know
like
how kids watch this movie and didn't like.
no, I don't know. Because like if I was a kid, I would have shat my
Oh
pants.
yeah, I would have
I'm
pissed
not gonna lie.
myself.
This would have given me a nightmare. In like the minute I go to bed, I was gonna poop my pants. but but it's also because like his design once again, it's not like the comical like red eyes and everything. It is very very clean. Very it's like that's what we say. The sharp angles and everything make Death makes this whole movie a lot more mature than it is, which is why it was probably so unexpected. Because
Yeah,
essentially, if you take Death out of this film, I mean, one, it loses the whole like the whole main conflict of
yeah.
the film, but it also wouldn't be as suddenly like oh shit,
Oh
this is quite this is geared for adult audiences as well. Like
yeah,
it's Death is just like he's like the tidbit of he has content for the adults while you're watching a kids film type of
yeah.
stuff.
And again, that's also something that like I think it was either last year or the year before's Oscars when I think it was last year's Oscars when remember that whole controversy happened when they were like, yeah, animation's only for kids.
Yeah. Oh, I
And there
remember
was that
that.
whole like thing that happened. And I think what like again all that whole uproar and everything that happened is warranted and valid. And I think the reason and the way that you can tell a good animated movie from a bad one is when there are adult themes that can still work in a children's movie.
Yeah,
And
very
that is
very much
something
so.
that is what this movie did so well. Like obviously a kid's gonna think death is scary as like a villain, but
Yeah.
he's not gonna be able to fully comprehend
No,
exactly
like
what
the kid isn't essentially going to like comprehend like the background themes that are playing with the
yeah.
whole death and mortality, etc. and
Yeah,
whatnot.
no,
But
no
it's
6-year-old
a
is
cool villain
competent.
for the kids to watch, okay, while giving them the message of you all have what you want and you all have what you need. You don't need wishes to get what is. So
Yeah,
that's
but yeah, I do think that as people say, the hallmark of a good movie is being able to be viewed by everyone and enjoyed by everyone, and Puss in Boots does that right.
yeah.
In well, this one again, I don't remember the
Yeah,
first one. I was
the first
four.
one wasn't as memorable. Uh, yeah, I don't, but also that's also the thing is watching this movie. You actually don't have to watch the first film
Hmm.
to know this movie.
Yeah, that is
The only like consistent thing is like I mean, I guess Puss is obviously there from the film and Kitty Softpaws. Otherwise, everything else is different. So you don't need to have actually watched the first film. I mean, there's a couple of Easter eggs as well, but otherwise, you don't need to have watched the first film in order to enjoy this film, which is why it's also quite a great sequel in that. I think considering they waited like 10 years for the sequel to come out, I think it was a good route for them to go. Let's make it so that you don't have to watch that original one, because otherwise a load of people are gonna have completely forgotten the first one. And let's be real, I don't have any desire to watch the first Puss in
Yeah.
Boots film again. Like,
Uh,
it was okay, but it wasn't. There
yeah.
wasn't anything that made me go, "Oh yes, I'm watching this
Yeah.
film again and again,"
This,
like this film has made me do.
I think DreamWorks realized that their target audience for the first film was thoroughly either grown up or didn't care enough to actually watch it. So
Yeah, no,
they
I
did they
actually
did
do
kind of
think.
like move.
Yeah, I think they did factor in the fact that back then kids were watching this film. Suddenly, this audience is now grown up because essentially, like, we were the target audience back then,
Yeah,
pretty much,
us like
because we were like what we were like in grade one round about the time, or grade going into
I think we
primary
were
school at the time.
going into primary school, but
Yeah,
then
and so obviously now we've grown up and we're now out of high school. So I think they decided to carry on with that to make sure that the audience, the original audience, actually, got something
and
more out of it rather than just
that
going,
is
"Oh God, it's another
I
Puss in Boots film. Darn it."
I am very appreciative of DreamWorks for doing that because I adore children's movies. Like I will watch a children's movie over any action movie any day of
I
my
know this film has just made me go, God, I need to watch more kids films to
yeah
make sure I'm not missing out on anything dope.
yeah.
Uh,
But not Disney though. We don't support Disney.
oh yeah, no, it's not Disney. It's just because Disney's remaking everything. Like they're just like,
Yeah.
right, guys, you know how we had these animated films? Let's make them live action. I'm just like, I don't care anymore. I
Let's
don't.
do this. Why? What was the Lion King? What was that?
Or
What
Aladdin.
was that?
The Aladdin as well was also
I
like,
didn't watch Aladdin. All I know is that Will Smith was in it, and because of that, I didn't want to watch it.
you know, they just
All the shade to Will Smith, by
they
the
were
way.
just
All the
so
shade.
pointless films, to be honest. Like there was
Yeah,
no point in watching those films, which is why DreamWorks is great, because DreamWorks is actually coming
yeah,
out with original content. And I mean, going back to the Wolf once again, another reason why he's such a great. So he's not necessarily, as we say, he's an antagonist, and we're not going to call him a villain simply because he's more a force of nature. But what
yeah.
makes him so great as an antagonist for Puss in Boots is the contrast and the theme that he carries along with him. Because similarly, like I said, up until this point, my favorite DreamWorks villain was Shen from the second Kung Fu
Yeah.
Panda film. And the reason why, once again, Shen works well is because of his contrast to Po and like what he means to Po. Like essentially, a great antagonist has like this personal connection with the protagonist, and it's that conflict that makes it so well.
Yeah.
So in the Puss in Boots film here, we obviously have the fact that Puss has never given a damn about his lives. He's kind of gone, well, I have 9 lives, I can do whatever the hell I want. Now suddenly that he's on his last life, he's confronted with more like his mortality for the first time. And the problem is death doesn't mind too much that he has 9 lives, because he says, although it's sickening that I find it sickening that a person should get 9 lives. He personally hated the fact that Puss just wasted his 9 lives.
Yeah.
He kind of looked at this as though he had been like insulted. Like, here's Puss in Boots with 9 lives, and he's just insulting him, like teasing him about with all these 9 lives. And so Death wants to take his life in order to like actually induce that fear, to show him, hey, my
Yeah.
guy, I
Care about being
be
alive.
grateful for these lives that you have, because eventually I will come for you one day.
Yeah.
And so it's just that contrast of Puss facing his mortality and probably facing, as we say, his greatest fear, because throughout the film, once again, it's also shown, like, as Kitty Softpaw says, the one thing that because there's a bit of a romance between Kitty and Puss now.
Yeah.
At the end, because like so they supposedly were going to get married between the last film and this film,
Yeah.
and Puss kind of left her at the altar because he got cold feet. So
Yeah. But, I mean,
and
to be
so
fair, Kitty didn't show up either. But
yeah, it's
like,
fine. She didn't show up either. But the thing was, she said the reason she didn't show up was because she said she knew that she could never compete with his one true love, which was himself. And the idea of he has grown into this legend. He is very self-obsessed, and so mortality and death brings him, like, it humbles him. It makes him realize, oh shit, there's something more than that. You need to be more than just a legend. You need to actually appreciate the life that you have. And so that's why he works so well, because he just contrasts with the protagonists
it was just great.
beautifully.
That was a very deep character arc for a kids movie. Like
Yeah.
it was a very deep character arc, and it worked really well in the context of him just like really really fighting with all these other people for trying to get to the wish. Which I think let's take a break from the wolf, otherwise that's going to be this entire episode.
Because look, this entire episode was gonna be fangirling over this damn wolf, but like trust me, y'all, when we say it is one of the most terrible, like I say, this is the type of villain that competes with the original Darth Vader and the original Star
Yeah.
Wars movies, being that he is absolutely terrifying, makes you go, oh shit.
Like there is an actual fear that is induced with you when you see this. When you don't even have to see him.
Not you. It's literally just
The whistle,
it's
the
the
whistle, man,
goddamn
the
whistle.
whistle. It's incredible. The fact that DreamWorks were able to create a character that is able to induce fear without even having to be on screen. That is truly a
Yeah,
triumph.
I was gonna
That
say
is
because
incredible.
before we move on from death now, because otherwise we are gonna be out this whole time talking. I was gonna say one of the things seem to get with like great villains is also having you want to induce that fear when they're off screen as well. And so a lot of it is to use like the audio and sound techniques. Once again with Darth Vader, it's done with his iconic breathing. You want like an iconic sound that is going to like strike terror at someone. With Darth Vader, they have his breathing. Like in The Empire Strikes Back, you know, there's always that scene where he suddenly hides from Luke and he
Yeah.
goes dead quiet, and then his breath comes and he just jumps out, and you're just like, oh! It's the same thing. It's having this like audio sound effect that makes like strikes fear into your gut without actually character showing up on screen, and so I think that's also what ties into make him so well
Yeah,
crafted here.
he is. But yeah, guys, if even if you watch, just watch the movie for the villain.
I know
Just
adults.
the villain.
I know it's a kids' film. Watch it.
Watch it.
Watch
Watch it.
it.
Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you. The plot's better than Avatar.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Plot's a
This has
lot
got to
better
be
than Avatar.
like I don't kid you when I say this is probably one of the best films I have ever watched. Period. Like I
It
think
is.
it easily makes it into the top 10 of my films.
Yeah,
Like
it is. It's arguably one of the best films of the last 10 years.
as we're gonna go, we'll maybe get to some of the critiques at the end, but
Yeah,
like there isn't
there's not a
many.
lot.
There isn't many at
There's not
all.
a lot. But yeah, so moving on to the secondary antagonists. Those
So let's
being
yeah. So let's shall we get to Big Jack Horner? Because
yeah, so Big Jack Horner, the most blatant metaphor for capitalistic design you've ever seen in your entire life. So basically, in this film, little Jack Horner grew up and runs a pie company now, and he's a large man. So he is Big Jack Horner, and he really doesn't care about his stuff. Okay, so
no.
he wants the wish so that he could get all the magic in the world, and so that he can
Yeah,
have all the
because
power.
essentially he's like one of the few characters in Shrek that doesn't have like any magical capabilities or
Yeah,
whatnot, and so his whole thing is he just wants to attain ultimate power.
the ultimate power.
And
So
it's not even like trying to cover up. He doesn't even have a soft backstory. He's just
no,
straight up a pure
yeah,
evil guy.
he just has this intrinsic villainy that is just
That's why
it's,
Death is an antagonist. Jack is also an antagonist, but he gets the title of villain simply for the
yeah,
fact that
he is villain.
he is straight up a villain. There is no
Yeah,
redeemable
he is
qualities to him.
there's not one point in this movie that you feel any sympathy for him, not once.
No,
Now,
and the
maybe
film
at
makes
the
like
end,
the film makes a satire out of that. It kind of like
yeah,
laughs at the fact that this because at some point, so we have a little Jiminy Cricket, right, who
yeah,
pops up as he's one of these magical items. And this Jiminy Cricket is supposed to be like the satire because he's supposed to, you know, like sit on Jack's shoulder and like
be
speak
his
his conscience and
consciousness.
whatnot. And so at some point, the Jiminy Cricket's like, "Oh my God, you're a horrible monster," and Jack just flicks him and goes, "What took you so long, idiot?" And it's like, yes, it's
Yeah,
like
it's
it's
brilliant.
just he knows he's evil. He doesn't give a shit.
He doesn't give a shit, and it's incredible. And you'd think like he would at least care about his stuff, but when so he brings a baker's dozen,
Yeah.
kind of like baking warriors with him to the dark forest to fight Puss in Boots and try and get the map so he can get the wish, right? So they fight, and I am not even kidding when I tell you that most of the deaths of Big Jack Horner's staff or like people are from him shooting them with unicorn horns. Because another thing we should mention is that Big Jack Horner also doesn't he doesn't have any magical powers, but
Yeah.
he has like a bag
He
with a whole bunch
yeah,
of
he
magical
collects,
like
but
weapons.
it's cool because he collects magical items from throughout little fairy tales. Like there's hints at like because it takes it like essentially Jack Horner is where like the satire for this whole film comes. And it takes jabs at a load of like things like there's Alice in Wonderland. There's the food she eats when she makes her grow large for whatever. There's like the phoenix or whatnot.
Yeah,
There's little Jiminy. There's like a trident. There's a magical carpet. It's just basically it makes fun of all of these tropes. And Jack
yeah,
Horner just has all of these because he
all of-
collects magical items
yeah,
essentially.
and he uses them in battle, and he does not use them well. So So yeah, and you yeah, so he ends up killing most of his. Killing is a strong word. He shoots them with unicorn horns, and then they explode into confetti.
Oh
Uh,
no, he doesn't kill them. Remember, like the one time he's like, "Oh come on, you were in the way of that." So according to him, they all just stepped in his way.
yeah, they all just stepped in his
They
way.
all
But
committed
yeah,
suicide, guys. It's
so
fine.
if that isn't a good enough inkling as to the type of boss slash villain little Big Jack Horner is, yeah,
It's
watch the movie.
I know it's just refreshing because it's kind of nice to have that classical villain who's just evil for no
Yeah,
apparent reason. But the reason it goes well is because then you actually have the antagonist death to contrast with it. So this film can afford to have, because obviously on its own, like if we just had this maniacal evil guy Jack Warner on his own, it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like, oh, but
okay, yeah,
so yeah, maybe I'll touch like on the idea of, I like how they've set out like the antagonists in
yeah,
this film, because they utilize, very rarely in books do they utilize a wide spread of them, because they like, 'cause a lot of people obviously get scared that you want to give enough characterization, and obviously this film is only an hour and a half long, but it
yeah,
manages to do it well. But
yeah,
the nice culmination. So we have our protagonist, who is obviously Puss in Boots. We have his like cliched friend Perito,
yeah.
and then we have like the love interest, but also the
There's,
competitive
yeah,
protagonist who like
with,
furthers the protagonist's
yeah,
uh
Kitty Soft
journey,
Paws.
who's Kitty Softpaws, because he's always in competition with her, but she's also like the love interest.
Yeah,
Then we have the antagonist to the protagonist, and this is the direct one is Death, because he directly conflicts with Puss. We have the villain, who's Jack Horner, who's just evil for no fucking reason. He just
he
is
just
he's evil.
is.
And then we have like the grey antagonists, who are the
Yeah,
Goldilocks and the Three Bears, because they're portrayed as antagonists because they're essentially a challenge. They like challenge
yeah, they're
Puss,
an
but they
obstacle
don't.
to
Yeah,
push for him
they
to get
don't directly have any
off.
personal connection to him,
Yeah,
and they don't like threaten him personally
yeah.
like
Uh,
Death does. So
Another
it's
thing
quite
is,
nice how they just use all
yeah,
of these kind of
there,
protagonists and antagonists in a way.
there is a slight connection between Kitty Softpaws and Little Jack and Big Jack Horner, because Big Jack Horner hired Kitty Softpaws to steal the map from whoever originally,
Yeah.
and
And
then
Goldilocks also then tried to hire both Kitty Softpaws and Puss to
yeah,
then steal. So,
to
so
steal it,
they basically all know each other, because everyone's hiring someone or
to
somewhere
steal
along the
something
line.
from everybody else. Yeah, it's great. But yeah, so yeah, Big Jack Horner, he's just a villain. There's no need to have
Yeah,
backstory. He's just bad.
and he was the funniest part of the film. Like,
Yeah,
let's
he
be real,
really was.
Jack Horner was the funniest part of this film.
He was great. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. By the way,
God.
I just want to get this out of the way. Goldilocks and the Three Bears have Olivia Colman and Florence Pugh.
Yeah, I know. I did
Yes.
notice that afterwards. Like afterwards, I had to Google, because I was like, Goldilocks' voice is familiar.
Yeah. If
But
you
I
watch,
love how the bears have like a Glasgow kind of accent,
yeah,
and then Goldilocks is like the Scottish girl. It's hilarious.
yeah, no. So Goldilocks and the Three Bears are they're basically on their own thing. The
Yeah,
bears just kind of and
they're the subplot
yeah, they're
essentially.
the subplot, and I think it's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears also have a lot more of the emotional beats in this movie,
Oh yeah,
along with Puss and
and
Death
yeah, and
and
like Puss
Soft Paws.
and Perito's there as well.
Yeah,
Like that scene where he lies on Puss. Yeah,
yeah, but the whole thing is that Goldilocks, the bears are with Goldilocks because they want to support her on her
yeah.
journey to get the
Because like, okay, so we should say the spin-off from the actual fairy tale is that Goldilocks obviously had her thing where she went to the bears' house, slept in all their beds, chairs, ate their porridge or whatever. The bears, though, instead of obviously doing, they decided, let's adopt this girl,
let's
because she
adopt
was
her
an
into a
orphan,
crime family.
and so she's now like with them. She's like they're
Yeah,
her family, and they have such a great and wholesome family dynamic. Like
yeah.
it's fun, it's playful, but it's also like the mother relationship between Mama Bear and Goldilocks is
It,
actually like
it's
that was
just
so like
it's
that was like,
so like
oh.
heartfelt. It's really cute. And like they're like Goldilocks and Baby Bear have the same like kind of sibling rivalry,
I
and
know they insult each other all the
yeah,
time,
it's
but
hilarious.
they work so great together. It's great.
It's great.
Also,
And
can we also talk about, like, I'm gonna say my favorite character design in this whole thing is got to be Goldilocks' character design.
yeah,
I just think she's great. Like her whole entire
her
outfit
outfit
with
and
all
her
the like
hair
the
and
jewels,
everything.
their hair that looks like bear's ears, and her
It
like
was it,
it's great.
it's
I
great.
love her character designs.
Her character design, and Death's character design are like my favorites in this movie.
Yeah, no, definitely.
They're great. Yeah, but so the bears are following Goldilocks because Goldilocks wants this wish, but Goldilocks hasn't told the bears what this wish is. And
Birthday wish rules.
birthday, yeah, that is a weird thing.
That's the reason they use for. It's the comedic reason they use for why no one can tell each other what their wishes are because.
Yeah, it's birthday wish rules. If you
Birthday
say
wish
the
rules.
if you say the wish out loud, it won't come true.
Yeah.
So the bears are following Goldilocks to try and help her get this wish. Meanwhile, Goldilocks is struggling internally with this internal conflict because she's being supported by these people, but her wish is to get back to her original family, which
Yeah.
are humans.
Yeah, because being an orphan, there was one scene where Goldilocks and the three bears pick up the map, and one of their things is they have a hallucination along the line, which brings them back to the three bears' cabin and whatnot. And so obviously the dad bear falls asleep, baby is also doing whatever the hell. But then obviously Goldilocks finds this book. It's the book of fairy tales, and this was apparently her favorite book from a child. And what sticks out a lot is the fact that like the first page it has like a picture of a mother, a father, and then obviously a child who looks
with-
exactly very much
with-
like her. And
yeah,
so she looks at this book and that's kind of like that's
Yeah.
what she wants to know who her parents were or like why she's an orphan.
yeah.
And it's kind of very heartfelt that the bears are still helping her along. And then we
Yeah.
should probably get to like one of the like because as you said, there's two very sad parts. That almost had us crying. There was the one with Perito, and then there's the one with Goldilocks and the three bears. Let's do that
so like,
one since we're on
yeah,
this.
again, the dynamic between Mama Bear and Goldilocks, even though, and I think at a certain point you can see that Mama Bear knows like why Goldilocks wants this.
Yeah.
Wish.
It's so good for a
He
kids
still
film though because
supports
it
her.
also because it teaches
Ah.
kids of like actual happy because like the problem with today's film is like everyone's teaching like, oh my god, your parents are horrible, etc. Get away from them. So this film was actually kind of nice in that the family dynamic with Goldilocks and the three bears was like really wholesome. I think it's pretty good for kids as well.
And,
So
and it really does it like kind of it does that whole like found family thing really well, where it doesn't matter that you're not really a bear. Like the fact of the matter is like we care about you because you're part of our family. We love you.
Yeah,
because
that was
help you.
Yeah, because that was one of the reasons why Goldilocks didn't believe she'd be able to stay with them is because she's like, well, I'm not a bear, so I can't stay with y'all.
But the thing is, she's already been integrated into this whole family dynamic. So yeah, it's just like there's moments, especially when you can see Goldilocks is really struggling with that whole like feeling like she doesn't completely fit in with the bears and wanting to leave, but still feeling the love and feeling the support from the like bear family, and that like really tugs at the heartstrings.
Yeah, I know. Then like we said, the one scene where we almost cried as well was basically when they're getting close to the wish and like Goldilocks and Baby Bear are fighting or arguing because they keep coming across the same fucking rock over and over. And then Baby Bear goes, so what the hell is so important about this wish to you? And so eventually Goldilocks just bursts out that because she wants a real family. And so that was kind of like, because also the mama bear gets like really sad and like the father bear like, oh shit. But then the mom bear is kind of like, well, if that's what you want.
Yeah, that's what you
we
want.
are going
we'll
to help you
and
get it.
I almost cried.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
that was oh, that
was
hit
like
so hard.
So hard. I was like, so that dynamic was that whole dynamic was like very, very good at like the whole family. Like okay, but they were very funny. Like they were very classically and like very British crime family kind of vibe. I would love an entire like spin-off show with just them committing crimes.
Yeah, no, definitely. Amazing. I would love that.
But their like whole dynamic, one just really like strikes a chord because I think everybody can relate with like either not feeling like you belong somewhere or feeling like there's just a part of you that needs to know something, even though you know it might hurt some people in your life to know. So that was very good. And then the second like very emotional beat in the movie was Pertito and Puss in Boots in the forest after he hears Death's whistle.
Yeah. So as we said, this is when Jack Horner's coming. So this is when all the groups meets up again, and they're trying to steal the map. And Jack Horner's going around shooting his men with the unicorn horns, and they're exploding everywhere. And so that's when obviously the camera freezes and pans over to where Death is. So Puss obviously gets shits his pants. Well, his
Yeah.
pants. He doesn't. He has shits his boots, should I say?
Yeah.
And
He
then
took his boots off and shat in them.
yeah, and then okay, he doesn't. He doesn't do that.
He doesn't
just
actually shit in his boots.
and then he basically gets that because he's terrified, so he just runs
Yeah,
and he
he
goes
just
the other
books
way.
it into a forest.
He literally runs into the forest and he tries and like it's really creepy because Death is always like seen in the trees and whatnot. His eyes appear. Oh, it's creepy.
It's
Anyway,
really
so
cool.
he gets there and he's like having like because like he's having a severe panic attack. Like he sounds like he's about to have a heart attack.
Yeah, this cat is hyperventilating, like lying against a tree, and then all of a sudden, and then like he's like he flashes back to his fight with Death and his face, and you can
Uh,
feel the
yeah,
fear.
it also flashes back because as Death says like at the beginning, lives flashing before your eyes. It's kind of cool how they incorporated some of the previous film and like scenes from the Shrek movies with him in to like show his life. As it's kind
Yeah,
of that was quite neat.
that was quite cool. But yeah, so his life is flashing before his eyes. He's losing his shit, and then all of a sudden, who comes along but Perdito, the therapy dog with a very traumatic past. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
So
he's happy and everything, so
yeah,
he's
Perdito is blissfully unaware of anything. The like you know that TikTok sound is like Michael. You have no thoughts behind those eyes, do you? Like
yeah.
yeah, Perdito no thoughts. So Perdito comes up and he doesn't know what to do, right? And he's like, "Oh, my true calling as a
Yeah, I'm a
therapy dog.
therapy
I
dog.
will
This is what I was
therapy
made
dog
for.
you." So he like lays his head on Puss, and Puss is like hyperventilating, starts to slow down. He
But
starts
it's
to
also
relax.
so adorable the way he
It is.
does. Like y'all have to watch it because like the anim, like
Watch
I
the
can't
movie.
speak how adorable that was.
Watch this movie. It's so good. But yeah, it's very cute. I was watching the behind the scenes of how that animation was done, and it is beautiful. Um, so yeah, so Perdito like lays his head on Puss's chest, or like it was I don't know cat anatomy. You have cats.
Yeah, it's his stomach, I guess.
Yes, his
Yeah, not
stomach.
yeah. I
I don't
don't
know.
know.
And Puss in Boots relaxes and starts to calm down, and they have like a Puss like he has like a heart to heart with
Yeah,
Perdito about like his struggle and like fear of mortality, and it's just like a really beautiful moment.
yeah. And then he also explains to Perito that he can't like and so because Perito's like, oh, you should tell Kitty, but you can't. He's like, I can't tell her because she'll she's never forgiven me since Santa
Yeah,
Coloma, and apparently so in Santa Coloma that was the
the
where they
wedding.
had their where they had their wedding and where he got cold feet at the altar and did well left Kitty at the altar even though she didn't show up,
Yeah,
and then so there's it's kind of because then Perito kind of like tells him, you know, you should probably just tell her.
yeah,
Perito's like the therapist in this whole entire
yeah.
thing, as well as just because also let's also comment on the fact that I don't know how this film managed to get away without swearing.
Oh yeah.
Like
No, the fact
y'all,
that this is a PG rated film for death.
yeah,
That is it.
and we should also say because at some point, like when, because okay, so let's say so Perito doesn't actually have a name at the beginning of this film. They
Yeah,
ask him what his name is, and he goes, "Ah, well, you know, people have called me Bad Dog, Get
yeah.
Outside," and then he goes, and
Some,
then he goes
yeah.
beep 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 because he's swearing, and then at one point he also starts insulting Goldilocks of the Three Bears, and so he just
Yeah, and
it just goes
it's
beep
just
beep,
beep
it
beep
just
beep beep.
senses it. It's so funny.
It's so funny.
And also
No,
then at some point as well, like Kitty's about to say bullshit, but then obviously it gets muffled bull. And then
yeah,
technically Death does say hell,
yeah,
does use the word hell in Spanish at the end, so
yeah.
it does get
So
away with swearing in the
let's
end.
get away with swearing, but like not actual swear, unfortunately. But
Yeah. So unless if you're a Spanish kid watching this, then you probably didn't catch up on the
yeah,
swear the
and
one swear word that got in.
that is actually something that I really liked about this film, and I think it's kind of cool. And I would have liked it even more. I think if I actually understood Spanish, that like they didn't translate any of the Spanish.
Yeah.
It was kind of just there. So I feel like it kind of gives people who understand Spanish like a little more of a look into
Yeah.
to the movie, and I think that's really cool. Like
And
they
it
were just
gives the
like,
movie
y'all,
yeah, no, it gives the movie character as well because it is obviously set in like a like
19th
Latin America
century,
type
like
thing. Like basically just think of Mexico essentially. That's
yeah,
kind of what like obviously we don't know what this place is because it's a fictional place, but
yeah. We don't
it's
know accent.
basically like Mexico.
From what I can tell, like the art design and stuff, like the design of like the towns and stuff, were based on paintings by a Mexican artist from the
Yeah.
19th century. So the at least the towns are based in the 19th century. So we're just gonna go with it's
Yeah.
like 1800s ish.
But yeah, it adds character to the and it's not like it's like they have entire paragraphs in Spanish. They just
No, it's
have
just like
like
every now and again there's like a sentence or like an exclamation that's in Spanish, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
I wonder what that means. And the Spanish people are like losing their shit, like, oh,
Although I love at the beginning when Puss meets Perito for the first time, and Perito's like, "Oh my God, it's a talking cat. You can speak English too." And then Puss goes, "No hablo inglés." And then he goes, "You can speak Spanish?" And
you
then
can
he's like, "No,
speak
I
Spanish.
actually can't speak Spanish." It's kind of like making fun of the fact that its own setting is in a very like Spanish-esque background,
Yeah,
so it's quite funny as well.
pretty funny. Yeah, no. So those are the antagonists for the most part.
Yes.
If you want to know more, and there is more, watch the movie.
God, just
Um,
if you don't watch it, you're
yeah,
missing
and
out.
I also just one more thing before we leave. The cat lady. Let's just take spend like a couple of minutes on them. I love her so much. She
Yeah,
is who I want to be when I grow up.
just
Uh,
have 100 cats
just have 100.
in the
This
house.
woman has like 100 cats. She makes them booties, like little boots, and she just exists. And she kind of reminds me of there's like this really old Disney animation. The like the no not Disney. This is the first Pixar animation, like the first one where that guy's playing chess in the park.
Oh
She
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
has that exact vibe, like that exact vibe.
I know it does.
It is incredible, like with the glasses and like that whole thing, and it's just great. I love her. She's a kooky cat
I
lady,
know.
and she's great, and she fights the bears, or she tries to fight the bears,
She gets
and
shoved
it's
into a
so much fun.
piano by Daddy Bear.
It's
So,
so much fun.
uh,
Yeah.
we should also maybe just like go over like I guess because obviously spoilers, y'all. I mean, come on, you
Okay.
already
Yeah. It's
know
a little late, but
the ending
spoilers.
because obviously the whole point is everyone wants this. Puss wants his 9 lives back. Kitty wants someone she can trust to be by her side because essentially she's been betrayed by Puss when he left her at the altar. Well, even though she, but and then
Kitty got trust issues.
yeah, and so then Goldilocks obviously wanted her wish to have a real family, and then Jack Horner just wants all the fucking magic. So anyway, at the end, Jack kind of gets thrown into his bag, and so he disappears for a while because it's like a bag of infinite magical items or whatnot. And
Yeah.
then Puss has the whole final conflict with Death, and
But
that's
then
when
Mary Poppins is back.
yeah, I don't know. It could
It
be
kind of
because
gives Mary Poppins vibes.
it's making. I mean, because also remember when I think like Kitty tells him how's the granny bag and he goes it's not a
Yeah,
granny bag, it's a nanny bag. So I'm pretty sure it
it's
actually
like a
is a
Mary Poppins
it
bag.
is but
But yeah, who knows?
and so then obviously Puss has his final confrontation with Death, and obviously this fight is like pure.
It is
Mwah.
incredible
And it's
because
because he
yeah,
has the map. He has the map, and he has the ability to get his wish right there and right then. Because essentially, it's so cool, like how the animation transitions, right? Because Death shows up, he spikes his sickles on the ground, and then
and
fire goes around, and then
yeah,
that's when
that is so cool.
the animation transitions into that, like drops the frame rate for that fight thing. And so obviously Puss now can get his wish if he really wants to, but he decides, fuck it, I'm
Yeah,
no longer running away from death. I'm not. I'm going to fight for this last life
yeah,
that I have, rather than throw it away like the others. So he puts down the map, and that's when they
and
have their
they
fight.
big fight, climactic fight,
Yeah,
and at the end, Puss doesn't die.
yeah. Neither does death. So we will say this is also
Yeah,
one of the good ones. Thank God, because obviously it would have been stupid if they
if
killed
Death
him, because
could
like
die,
you can't kill
dead.
death. And
So
so don't worry, y'all. He doesn't die at the end, just in case
Death
you
is
thought this was gonna get a bit
yeah,
dumb.
the fact. I think again, it's the fact that Puss is actually fighting for his life
Yeah,
that convinces Death to leave him alone because it's
yeah.
like,
Because
oh,
yeah,
he actually cares now.
yeah, no, because Push does kind of beat him because like so at the beginning of the film in the bar fight thing, Death knocks his sword out of his hand and then tells him to pick it up to fight, but he doesn't, and so he runs away like a coward. And so the whole point at the end there is that instead Puss knocks his sickles out of Death's hands and he sends it over to Death and tells him to pick it up, which
Yeah,
is quite a very cool contrast because then at the end it showed Death that instead of being a coward who thought he was like this cocky legend and who needed to be humbled, he was now suddenly fighting for his life. Because like recognizes that, hey, I'm never going to be able to defeat you, but I will always fight you. And so then Death eventually goes, well, shit, this isn't the guy I came for. I wanted the cocky legend who needed humbling, and now suddenly he can't say. He's like, and so then he swears. So then he has a swear. He swears in Spanish. He curses in Spanish, and then goes,
like, oh,
okay.
I can't kill anyone.
Yeah,
today.
he's like, fine, I'll let you live this last life. And so then he's like, yeah, and then he's like, it's cool because he leaves it. He's like, we will meet again. Because
it's menacing as hell, and it's amazing. Again, Death, best DreamWorks villain
ever, like
ever.
Period. So far,
so far.
Unless they can somehow up that.
I mean, what, Kung Fu Panda 2 is coming out at some point, and Shrek as well.
Yeah. I don't know what they're gonna do in Shrek 5, but we'll see.
We'll see if they give us better villains than the actual Death. Then...
Yeah, because I mean, to be fair, I didn't think Shen was gonna get topped, but it got topped by a Puss in Boots, for God's sake.
And I think we have all of this to thank. We have Spider-Verse to thank for all of this, because what Spider-Verse did is that Disney was the echelon of animation.
And it had a very standard style.
Yeah, and it wasn't good. Let's be honest. Tangled was the best, and then everything dropped off. Tell me I'm wrong. Tangled is the best Disney movie of the 2010s.
Yeah, no, I can't actually, because I try to think of what the list of Disney movies are, but I don't. Okay. It gets a bit muddled.
Okay, it has Flynn Rider, and that man is the sexiest.
It's like, did you come here for a pencil hat? No.
Bitch,
I came here for Flynn.
Flynn Rider is the reason.
He's like,
a homosexual man.
Like, yo, okay. I'll be stuck in a tower if he comes and saves me.
It's like I will grow my hair out. I don't know how or why, but I will grow my hair out, and like I'll give you my unicorn. Like, that man. Yo. Anyways, so Disney was Disney was stagnating the animation industry, especially for kids, because they were making purely kids films. They were not making films that could be watched by anyone, right? And what Spider-Verse did is it took that and forced animation to become evolve to a point where new things and new like transitions and new animation styles can be developed.
Yeah, it basically like introduced like the idea of creativity, because Disney was kind of like, right, this is how we animate, this is how things are done. Spider-Verse went, well, why have we been following these rules for like the past decade? Like, let's for once add creativity to the fact that we can animate and do whatever the hell we want.
And okay, firstly, we're not saying that Disney is like bad. It's just mediocre.
Yeah, and it's just gotten, as we say, stagnant over the years, because it's been the same stuff that's been churning out for the past decade now.
So Spider-Verse allowed people to, one, push that boundary of what animation is, and also push the boundary of what kids animation is, to the point where, one, we got things like Spider-Verse, then we got things like Mitchell's versus the Machines, which is, again, if you haven't watched that movie, go watch that.
Was also and then obviously we also have Arcane eventually.
Yeah, Arcane.
And so all these animations are.
That's good. And again, the last thing we heard from Disney in terms of innovation was freaking Frozen 2, because they developed procedural textures that made the cloth more realistic. And we were like, oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
Like I'm definitely noticing the cloth on their clothes every time.
I'm definitely like sitting there with like looking at the pixels, being like, oh, that's Stitch.
Oh my god, Elsa's dressed right now. Like, yo, Elsa's got a
again,
dress
we do not
there.
support Disney in this household. So, as I was saying, Spider-Verse allowed animation to evolve to the point where it is today, so that we could have movies like Puss in Boots, so that we could have shows like Arcane, so that we could have shows like Intergalactic.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that. Intergalactic was really good as well, and it kind of fit into that same kind of genre of there's like, it's kind of like how the Disney Renaissance was.
Yeah.
In like the late 90s, just late the 90s. It's starting a new animation renaissance, so that we're able to experience new things, because again, we grew up with the classic Disney from 2D animation in the Renaissance to the 3D animation that started off with what is Disney's first 3D animated movie? Who knows?
I don't know. That could be so long ago. But it's also nice because it finally also breaches the gap between 3D animation and 2D animation, because forever there's always been the 3D animation and like Pixar and all of that, and then you've had the 2D, which is like obviously like the more Eastern like anime, and you have like then obviously stuff like Family Guy and all of that other crap. Like no offense, all of that stuff. Like, not gonna lie,
Yeah,
the Western 2D animation has never been
yeah, it's never
on
been
peak as much as
great.
the Eastern one. Apart from a couple of things, like obviously, like you have Avatar: The Last Airbender, etc. But now finally we have this interaction between
Yeah,
3D and 2D to
animation.
create something that is so
And
like, oh, it just,
yeah,
because it switches up. It's the nice, instead of having a same single animation style throughout the whole thing, it switches it up, but it doesn't do it in a way that's jarring. So it's like, it switches
yeah,
up when the moment is right and perfect to make. It basically goes, well, we have 3D animation can be good for certain things, and 2D animation can be good for certain things. So how about if we combine the two,
combine
then we
them.
can like play on both the strengths of both animation styles
Yeah,
in one. And then it's
and
like,
and
oh yes,
and that's the great thing about mending these two, because there are some scenes in every movie that are like begging for 2D animation, like
yeah,
begging for that ability to have that like nuance and that experience to be able to
yeah,
like add in like little, just even if
or
it's like little
yeah,
things
no,
like the dots on like the little comic book like dots in Spider-Verse, like
yeah.
stuff like that. It just immerses the audience into the movie better, and it
De-
allows the movie to just be better.
Definitely, and also because like once again, like, and then like a strength of like the 3D animation is that you can get better like cinematography and camera
Yeah,
angles. Like camera angles in the 3D work better because it feels like it's going with the motion and whatnot.
yeah,
And so especially like in Arcane and Spider Verse, like when he's like swinging around on spider webs, or in like
yeah. That
Arcane when
like
you have those fight scenes. Like I still remember the one where like Savika and Bai are fighting, and then Savika goes and like and it just like
yeah,
it. So this we got to see this very well in Puss in Boots with that fight with the monster at the beginning with that camera angle
yeah.
when he
It's
goes and
like
he stabs his sword and the thing
it's
it just
so
allows
cool.
the 2D animation is like better for like, I don't know, more intense fight scene moments, and for that extra like unique like characterization of the actual film itself. And 3D is better for like actual camera angles, etc. And so when you combine them together, it's
It's
like you
great.
have epic fight
It,
scenes that are
it
so dope.
yeah, it gives movies and it gives characters personality.
It
Like again,
makes,
like in Mitchell's in versus the Machines, like everything is like kind of like comic booky and
yeah,
like little bits and pieces that are just like 2D animated to allow the characters like personality to come through. And the same thing happens in Puss in Boots, like with the confetti and with the fight scenes and like the sharp angles and like like running lines and movement lines that just
yeah.
appear. Like that gives character and it gives depth to a
Yeah, no.
movie.
Like
And
when
that is
like
just
when Death Putty combined his sickles together, like you can't tell me, and then you spun it around. You can't tell me that would have been as good if it was just a 3D animation on its
yeah,
own. The 2D that gave it like the extra lines and whatnot, it
yeah.
made it that
And
epic.
and it allows 2D and 3D animators to collaborate in a way that like 2D and 3D animators have kind of been, no, they haven't been at each other's throats, but there's been a
No.
clear divide.
Yeah, but it's
And
also, yeah, because I think it's also been because obviously all the big blockbusters have been like the 3D animated films, whilst the 2D
yeah,
ones haven't gotten as much recognition. So now it's allowing like people in the 2D animation industry to kind of
to come
branch into the more bigger, like I guess the
yeah,
bigger blockbusters without doing these like small series or whatnot, which is not necessarily bad. It's like not
yeah,
saying that they're a bad thing, but it's like
because
it's giving more opportunities for the animators to
they,
collaborate with one another.
yeah, again, as you said, like they have been throughout this entire time. They have been 2D animators that are still working, but
Yeah.
obviously they're more like the artsy, the more artistic, the
Yeah,
more
no, because
film
if you like
festival kind
put
of
pull up a
films.
list of like every animated movie on the planet that's ever been made, and you put a list of which ones have obviously sold the most, it's always
It's
gonna
going to be
still
the
be the
3D
Disney
one.
ones, because it's also just because it's made by Disney, right? Like people
Yeah,
watch it because, whereas people haven't really heard of, like, for example, like anime never gets as much recognition
yeah,
because it's more
or
Eastern media. It's more frowned. It's not as a big thing in the Western world, should we say? And
yeah,
so it
or
never makes like as much international attention. But now
yeah,
that there's like a combination of the two, it's like it basically
yeah.
smashes the Western and Eastern animations together, and now you have like this global unification. Like, yes, it's
It,
it's internationally recognized
it's
now.
beautiful, and I think Puss in Boots is the first time that we're actually seeing that it's not just a phenomenon that was going to come and go.
No,
Like
it's not. This
it is
is,
something that is happening, and it is something that is going to change the way that our children are going to view animation and how we're going to view
yeah.
animation as we're growing into young adults and adults.
Which is kind of why now it's made me interested to see what the hell. Like, I never thought I'd be saying this, but I kind of want to see what the Shrek 5 movie is
Yes.
gonna be, because if they somehow use this animation in a Shrek in this fifth Shrek film, I'm gonna watch it
Yeah, no,
because like I've never like I've watched like two of the Shrek films and I
yeah,
basically don't remember them at all because they're just
yeah,
they're to me they're a bit silly and stupid. But
yeah,
y'all, if we have this quality by DreamWorks going ahead, I am
yeah.
invested in Shrek
And
now.
I also think that, as again, it sounds like I really hate Disney, and I don't. I just don't like them. But this is also going to help people like divide what good animation is from just like mass produced like cash grabs. And I think
Yeah,
that's also good because, like, again, animation and movie making are all forms of art, right? And the thing is, if you can create a piece of art that works on all levels, like what Disney used to do, that's great. That's brilliant. By all means, it's warranted that you're
yeah.
one of the best companies in the world in terms of that. But if you're doing it for cash grabs and you're doing it just so that you can make a movie, nobody's gonna like you.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure it wasn't like the first Shrek film supposed to be just like a stupid thing where they used it to punish animators. Like
Yeah,
if you got the shit end job, you got to work on Shrek, and then I don't know for some reason, for whatever god's reason on earth, it
it's like
became popular, and
it's
Disney
like
was like,
great.
well, not Disney, I guess DreamWorks was like, oh
Yeah.
shit, we accidentally made something that people like for some reason.
Yeah, and again, look, it's sad that Blue Sky Studios, Blue
Yeah,
Sky
no, it
Studios.
is Blue Sky. Yeah, they don't
Yeah, it's
they
sad that Blue Sky Studios like dropped because obviously they had stuff like Horton Hears a Who, which is like a
yeah.
classic, and like all that kind of stuff. But again, it's leaning more into this fact that maybe we're going to get a studio or sub studio that is either focusing or is going to bring us more of this type of animation,
Yeah, I
and that's just
definitely
going to
think we
be
will see it more going forward, and I think possibly like if DreamWorks keeps up, they could end up doing just that because like DreamWorks is kind of like on peak. Like let's be real, all their recent films are like kick ass. Like you have the How to Train Your Dragon films, you have the Kung Fu Panda films, you have this now. They're like on peak
yeah, they're on
performance
fire.
here right now.
And obviously, again, I who anyone who knows me, I am a stop motion animation nerd as far as you could get. I love stop motion animation and I love Leica. So if this stuff becomes more mainstream, then maybe finally we'll get some sort of 2D animated like stuff in three in stop motion. And when that happens, I'm ready. I will die. I have seen everything I need to see in the world. I'm done.
Keaton's life will be finally
I
accomplished. Like
I
that'll
have
be it.
accomplished
His life is
everything.
finished now that he sees that. So
No,
we're
but
gonna
yeah,
wait intensely because I feel like now going ahead in the future we are going to see more mixing and mashing of animation styles, and like this is just the beginning. But it's why this it's just like let's be real. This entire film, the reason it's so good because everything about it is so open. We haven't even got to the critiques, but basically the animation is absolute fire. The characters are phenomenal. The plot is
incredible.
obviously simple, but it's a kids' film. But it's done so well,
So
and it
well,
puts new spins
so
on the fairy
done
tales
so
and all of
well.
that stuff. It's just whoever wrote the show, whoever animated the show, y'all are like it's like perfection. Like this is
Yeah,
as
it
close
is
to
so good.
perfection as you can. And for 1.5 hours only, like god
Yeah,
damn, the
again,
fact
so
that
again,
Avatar couldn't get a like a more concise plot line,
in
more entertaining
three
plot line
hours,
within 3 hours,
it's
yeah, that's
incredible.
saying something.
But again, one of the critiques we did have was the pacing at the beginning. It was a little slow, and then
Yeah,
the ending was a little rushed. But obviously, again, it only had a certain amount of time to work with in the film,
yeah.
so it does kind of make sense. But again, it's not a big critique. Like
Yeah,
it is a
because
very
like yeah,
honest
because I
view.
think like for example, if they had a bit more time, but obviously we don't want the reason they're not going to make it longer is one, well, I mean for budget reasons, and also two
Yeah,
because it's a kids film. You don't
yeah,
want kids aren't like it's an hour and a half. That's like a standard kids film. You're not wanting them to be there for 2 hours, otherwise the kids fast asleep in the back of the cinema.
yeah.
But like the like
No,
the su-
make kids films for adults. Freak the kids. Freak the kids.
because like I was thinking also like the subplot with Goldilocks and the Three Bears probably could have also been done a bit like it could have had a bit more like time to it as well because I
Yeah,
did think they also kind of had to like quickly do that, but I still it was still like one of my
it was
favorite
still
plots of
good.
this thing. I loved Goldilocks
Like
and the Three
the fact
Bears.
that like the emotional points still hit, you still felt a connection to the
It's
characters.
just
Everything was
incredible how you care
there.
for every character in this film. Like it's
Every single character had just enough time and just enough backstory that you could connect with them and you could understand them and you could feel something for them, even if it was hatred, even if it was love.
Yeah, no, because you still felt
Something
something for them,
you
even if it
felt
was
something
Jack
for
Warner
every
being an
character, and
asshole.
they are blockbuster Hollywood like award-winning movies where that doesn't even happen sometimes.
No, exactly. Think about it. This movie literally has like pretty much the same amount of characters as like Avatar 2. And I'm sorry we're now comparing it to Avatar 2 because like y'all, we're not shitting on that movie. We still love Avatar,
Yeah,
okay?
we
But
love
it just so happens that we watched Avatar and I was like, okay, so that's probably gonna be the best film I'm gonna watch all year. And
Yeah.
then this thing comes out of nowhere and just absolutely blows my mind. So that's the only reason I'm comparing it to the two recent films I can think of.
Yeah.
But basically, like both films have like a similar amount of like characters and whatnot that they're
And I
dealing
can't
with.
remember any of the names from the first.
No, I'm sorry. That's the one thing Avatar just can't get is like actually making memorable characters.
Like y'all, okay, we'll talk about this when we do an Avatar episode. But yeah, it was pretty to look at, but the plot was not good.
Yeah, the plot was basically the plot was basically the first film redone, and I think it was better than the first film, but
Yeah.
you know, it's
But again,
still it's not gonna like I say. Would I watch Avatar or would I watch Puss in Boots? This movie.
like a month ago, I would have said Avatar. A month ago, I would
Yeah,
have said Avatar.
if you told me when both trailers had come out and I was gonna watch Avatar, if you had told me, guys, Puss in Boots is better than Avatar, I would have laughed at your face.
If you
Now I am like, yes, you are correct.
yeah, if you would have told either of us that Puss in Boots would be in our top 10 movies of all time.
We should probably just shout out to Josh Wallace.
Yeah,
for,
Josh.
Because he's the only reason we ended up watching this
Yeah.
damn film. Like, I had no intentions of actually like I was like, I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, that could be cool. Am I going specifically to the cinemas to watch it? No. Well, then we just decided, hey,
10 minutes
yeah.
before we were gonna hang out, I just get a text. You want to watch Puss in Boots?
And I was like, well, sure,
Well,
why
sure.
not? God. And then I watched it a second time, so
Yeah. Me too.
Can't get enough of it. Can't get enough of it. Like y'all, when this shit comes out, I am so downloading this film just so I can watch it. I am showing like if I have kids in the future, these kids are watching.
Oh yeah,
this
no.
film.
My kids are gonna be cultured. They're gonna watch Puss in Boots. We can have a viewing party together, just all our kids.
Oh no, dude, because this film, guys, it's
so good,
mind blowing. And I think we've pretty much covered everything. That this film has. I mean, obviously we haven't got down to like small details and whatnot.
I mean, if you wanna, obviously there's like actual like full on like video essays on the internet analyzing this movie, and if you do want to watch those, by all means, this is just our take. If you don't like the movie, you don't like the movie. We're not telling you to like it, but
we're telling you to watch it though.
Yeah, we are telling you to watch it. We are telling you, believe it or not, this random kids movie is worth watching.
Yeah, if you don't believe us, well, guess what? You're gonna have to go watch it to find out, huh?
And on our rating,
on our okay, right. So Will Sharpe.
Will Sharpe, look, he is an attractive man. Actually, yeah, he's an attractive man.
Yeah, like as we said at the beginning, we would totally be down to doing it.
Yeah, we would totally be down to doing you, Will Sharpe, again. Call me, please. That's not consumption.
Yeah, I know. Go on,
No, but unfortunately,
look, it's just the fact that there's so many things that play into this film. It's like the fact that it was so unexpected out of the blue. The fact that it's just so well written, so well animated. It's hard. It's like you can't if I were to give this a 10 out of 10 rating, I mean, it's like what my complaints are that it could have been better paced.
That's it.
But
it's like
the pacing is justified at the same time.
Yeah, it's like
I know.
It's a 9.8 out of 10. That's it.
Yeah, I know. That's it. Like
Will Sharpe, you're a decorated director, actor, writer. We know this. You wrote
still
Flowers.
Call us.
Yeah, still call us. You wrote Flowers, which I asked Calvin to watch, and I don't know if he's watched yet. But
don't worry, I still at least got to see that. Photo of him.
But unfortunately, I think we're gonna have to give it that Puss in Boots is in fact.
Yeah, like no offense to Will Sharpe, but like I'm pretty sure if we shove any.
Yeah, no offense. You're still a very attractive man.
Just because like if we shove any man up against this film.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to.
like you'd have to somehow a man would have to be reincarnated out of said movie in order to
Yeah,
actually compete with this film.
yeah. Also, the dad from Spy Kids voices Puss in Boots. That was gonna
No,
push it over the edge either way. I mean, come on.
I know. So sorry, but this film was
Sorry.
fucking lit.
Don't sue
There
us.
is
Don't sue
no
us.
other way to describe it but fucking fantastic.
It is fucking amazing. It is incredible as a movie and as a concept. And yeah, it's one of the best movies, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be one of the best movies of the 2020s. So,
And it's definitely gonna be like my favorite kids animated film to date.
oh
Like,
yeah, no,
100%. Like it just wipes clean with everything. Like Kung Fu Panda 2 probably was the original, my original favorite, but now this one. Ah, yeah. And I think
Yeah, no,
that's
it is
pretty
great.
much all we've got to say. So
Yeah, thank you
next
for
week,
listening
though,
to our
we're going back to
podcast.
books. I promise you, we're going back to books
Books.
next week. We're doing this, one movie, a book, a show, whatever.
Yeah.
But
So
we'll be back to
if you
books
are
next
really
week.
really sad,
And yeah, we're hoping next week we have a bit more of a competition, because I feel like these 2 weeks we've had, When You Are Mine kind of got destroyed by Zac Efron, and here unfortunately Will Sharpe got destroyed by Puss in Boots. So next week we can hopefully have a bit more of a challenge going on,
So,
to make this.
if you like Hogwarts with a lot more death and a lot more swearing, tune in next week.
Yeah, for another episode of Men or
Of
Books,
Men or
'cause we've got
Books.
books. We're
We've
forever
got-
going to be out of sync, but it's fine.
Cat.
I'm sorry, cat. Hello, Mischief. You could, yeah, that's it. Lick my arm.
Yes, lick his arm.
You wanna say goodbye to the people? Look at that. You
Say
are
bye to the audience.
Yeah.
Say bye to the audience,
your
Mister.
favorite. Yeah, let's
Mister.